Hi, I'm John F. Allen. And I'm R.J. Sullivan. And we're the Two Towers.
Greetings and welcome to the Two Towers Talk Show. I'm your host, Tower 1, John F. Allen.
And I'm Tower 2, R.J. Sullivan. Today, we have two of my favorite people guest starring at the same time, and I'm looking forward to having a discussion with both of them. Normally, I put together detailed questions for them to answer when we do interviews, but we're going to make this a little more open and more of a conversation. I think this is going to work a bit better that way. We're all friends here. So our first guest is Chris Garrison. She writes fantasy and science fiction novels and short stories. She is a founding member of the Speculative FIction Guild, along with two other people by the name of R.J. Sullivan and John F. Allen. I thought I'd get in there. Chrissy's latest release is Trans Witch, College of Secrets, which we'll be discussing to great extent here today. It is set at a wizard school for the rest of us. Her Transcontinental series is a steampunk adventure with a transgender woman as its protagonist. The series is set in one of the worlds in Chrissy's dimension-hopping science fiction adventure, Reality Check. Alien Beer and Other Stories, a collection of her short stories, was released in 2017. Her books are published through Silly Hat Books. Chrissy has two urban fantasy trilogies, Road Ghosts, which I love, and its companion series, The Tipsy Fairy Tales, which I love even more. She reads her stories on her Alien Beer podcast, which includes The Multiverse Blues, a science fiction serial. Chrissy lives in Indianapolis, Indiana, with her wife and several cats. She enjoys gaming, sewing, and finding innovative uses for duct tape. So that is Chrissy Garrison. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be talking to my friends today.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Our other guest is Danielle Muething. Let's see. I'm totally not reading off of her about website at all. 20 plus years of professional acting and singing for the stage, voiceover work for local commercials and businesses, and over 2 years of audiobook narration give Danielle the experience to bring your book to life. Oh, she turned it into a commercial. I knew that. Danielle has been on stage around her hometown of Cincinnati, as well as a 5-year stint in Orlando, Florida. Recording audiobooks allows her to combine her excitement for performing and her love of books. In her spare time, she loves to hang out with her husband, who built her custom in-home studio, and 2 dogs, Oz and Bender. I am so glad your husband made the list above your 2 dogs. So, how are you doing today, Danielle?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. It's fun. I've been dealing with little children for the last 2 weeks, so I'm excited to talk to adults.
Okay, that's right. You just finished directing a stage production, right?
It's not over. I still have 1 more week, but the past 2 weeks I was working with middle schoolers, and we did James and the Giant Peach Jr., and then next week we're doing Rock of Ages. So, but that's high schoolers. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's been fun, but it's been exhausting. So I'm excited to sit here and talk about audio.
So you're out of practice by at least a year, right?
Holy macaroni, yeah. Yeah, I usually do this every summer, and last summer got canceled because of COVID. So it's been over a year and a half since I've done this, and I forgot how much energy children have.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Danielle, I don't think you and I have talked directly before, except for in chat.
Oh, I think you're right. Yay. Hi. In
Hello.
real, online life.
As close as it gets.
Right.
Without driving a couple 3 hours.
Right. Which we may do someday.
Yeah, sooner
I
than
wouldn't
later,
be
I
against
think.
it.
I would not either.
Yes. I think that's going to happen sooner than later at this point.
Cool.
But it's funny because I don't know if you've experienced this, but my social life went from 0 to 60 like overnight. It's like I went from having nothing to do outside of the home to everybody wanting to do everything at once, and my having to kind of schedule things out and trying to figure out what's going to fit into place. I have 3 events coming up. Usually one in February, one in July, and one in September, and they shoved them all into the same 10 days, essentially the same events all at once. So that actually starts on Tuesday for me and goes for the next couple of weeks. One of those is In Conjunction, which Chrissy is one of the author guests, and that's an event that John and Chrissy and I know well. It's one of our favorite local cons. Tell us a little bit about you being there, Chrissy.
Well, I'm doing several. Well, they're not all panels, I guess. There's a couple of instructional ones that I'm doing. I'm going to be teaching people how to do flash fiction. We've done that as a group before, so I'm going to draw on that to teach people who want to learn how to do flash fiction. And of course, we only have an hour to do it in, so that's gonna be fun. But I've written a full flash fiction story in 10 minutes before. It wasn't a good one, but I've written wrote it. But it's for practice and being able to say you've done it. I think a half an hour or so will be enough for people to write something.
And that's going to be July 2nd through the 4th in Indianapolis at the Marriott East. It's inconjunction.org for anyone that wants to find out more about it or join John and Chrissy and I for dinner or something. Catch us, who knows? We'll see. But
I probably shouldn't add this, but you just said that you were being asked to do all the things socially. I have found that I am not ready to be social.
No, it is an adjustment. It really is.
I had to sort of go, okay, goodbye in the middle of an event a while ago because I just realized I didn't know how to do eye contact anymore. I didn't know how to, do body language anymore. I was, suddenly an awkward teenager in high school again, and it was super draining. So hopefully I'll survive InCon. I think I'll probably have to go to do events and then hide for a while, and then go to do events and then hide for a while.
I suspect so. Yeah. I haven't interacted a lot with strangers. It's mainly been family things, but my stuff starts up where I'll be interacting with strangers more often. And I got mixed feelings about that. John, do you have what's been your experience?
Well, for me, it's been very slow going. I'm starting to get out more socially. Went to a barbecue a couple weeks ago for the first time in over a year. Went out to dinner. Took my granddaughter to breakfast. So I'm starting to trickle out into, social life again. As far as cons go, In Conjunction and Imaginarium are the 2 that I will be attending this year, along with RJ and Chrissy will be at the InCon. Light. I've been taking it easy. I don't want to immerse myself. I'm not going to go full throttle back into cons until 2022. I think it's safer that way. It also gives me more time to prepare, and I'll have new releases by then. So a lot of good stuff coming. Patience is a virtue, they say.
I agree. But let's get into the more immediate. Chrissy just put out a brand new book called Transwitch College of Secrets. And I have to say, as someone who is very familiar with Chrissy's writing and also very familiar with Danielle's narration tricks and skills and such of both of you, it was a really neat experience. I just finished the audiobook yesterday. I listened to it over the last, I think, week and a half or so. Hearing, the Reese's peanut butter cup thing, the chocolate and the peanut butter coming together for the first time, and having kind of an insider's perspective on both of those, but being unfamiliar with this particular work and approaching it for the first time as an audiobook was a real special treat for me. I've always enjoyed Christie's writing, and I'm very partial to Danielle's narration since she does a lot of my narration. So it was really cool to hear one of my favorite authors read by one of my favorite narrators and being completely unfamiliar with what was coming next. It was thoroughly enjoyable. But let's get into Trans Witch and what's it about. Some of it's pretty obvious where it comes from, but Chris, I'd like to hear your perspective on how the idea came about and where the idea took you.
Well, a little bit over a year ago, a certain author of a certain magical school series wrote some things that kind of pissed me off. And I wrote a very sarcastic post on my site that was supposed to be a parody of that particular series, inserting a trans character into it, and because that would not be something that author would like. And I got such a response from people, my friends on Facebook, that I had it in my head, and a lot of people said, I would read this, you have to write this. And I kind of put it on a shelf for a while. I thought, no, I can't write just a snotty, in your face FU to a certain author that I used to adore.
She who shall not be named.
She who shall not be named. And because I just felt that was too mean-spirited, and that's not a plug on my other book that's new, but maybe it could be. It could be. I put it on the shelf for a while, and then I make no secret that I am a avid participant in, or have been an avid participant in, National Novel Writing Month. And right before National Novel Writing Month, I had a sewer disaster in my house. My house was a disaster, and we had to have insurance involved and plumbers involved, and we had to have the kitchen redone and the bathroom redone, and it was months of kind of camping in my own house. And we had stresses on the political front, which I shall not go into for somebody else who shall not be named. And I was at possibly the highest stress level I can think of. I had some other personal things going on. And so what did I do? I decided to make it even more stressful. I decided to write a novel in a month of November. And I put down an existing work I was working on to write this thing all at once. And so I somehow found an hour or two every single day in November to write thousands of words every day. And it was and it wasn't more stressful. It was more stress trying to dig up that time, even while taking care of everything around the house and work and whatnot. But it was also for me. I was writing that book for me. It was to get out some frustrations on different fronts. And I sort of translated this sort of anger and angst and heartache and all this sort of stuff into something positive. And it's not a relentlessly positive book. Certainly there are conflicts and there are disagreeable people in there that are the villains that are absolutely not based on anybody in reality. But it says so at the beginning of the book. I feel like I got out a lot of bad stuff and made a good thing out of it. So Trans Witch is a redo of a series about a wizard school, but it's not a reboot. It's the protagonist is not your typical teenage chosen one. The protagonist is a middle-aged transgender woman who has lost her wife, and she has gone missing, presumed dead. Nobody seems to be looking for her, not even her family, and she finds this very strange. And so she goes looking and finds that she has magical powers, because she stumbles into a place only magical people can find. and that's a college within a university. It's a bunch of interconnected rooms and floors and buildings in a university that are right under everyone's nose, but they just can't see them. And it's sort of a fairyland right alongside of everything. But they're real rooms. They're not they're not in a 9 3/4 space that doesn't exist in the Muggle world. These are real. It might be the sub basement of the Union Building, but no one goes there because they've forgotten it exists. You know, it's somebody else's problem and all that. And so the rest of the book is a mystery about her navigating a magical world where she's told she doesn't belong, and making friends that she rallies to help her, and helping them in the process, but to try and solve this mystery.
Yeah. And I want to emphasize, although the piece, you can tell there's a reactionary element to it, but I don't want people to think that it's a reactionary book, because it isn't. There's a lot of really original and interesting things in Transwitch, the way you actually do build a world, and there's a lot of world building within that university. And I love the way you came up with a different way for the magic to work. And I wanted to ask about your process of, once you decided to commit to this project, what was your thought process on building the inner workings of your wizarding school?
Well, I'll tell you a little secret. Well, you probably figured it out by a certain character in there. It is interconnected to my Tipsy Fairy Tales books, and by extension, the Road Ghosts. It's a corner that we haven't seen of those worlds, but I had decided the magical system was an extension of what I've seen, what we've seen in especially Tipsy Fairy Tales. What I did was what I do with a lot of my urban fantasy is I looked for magical things in ordinary places. I thought about a library, and I thought, what are things that are really magical about a library? You know, and of course, books themselves are portals to other worlds. But you know, I thought, well, would it have a card catalog system? You know, because that's what I grew up with. Not to date myself, but you know, pre-computer. But I thought, no, if you had magic and technology in the modern day, how would you look up information? And so I have this terrible pun where there's a tank full of fish, because I was trying to I was thinking of where did you look up really old documents like newspapers if you went to the library? On the microfiche. And so there are little microscopic fish that formed documents, kind of like a e-ink on the sides of a big tank. And you know, and there was a joke that didn't quite make it about a Kindle. There's kindling in the fire pit that can bring, but that could bring full 3D holodeck-like experiences to interactive experiences to the students. I just thought a multimedia center where the media was magical was something I would expect to find. And I don't know. I broke it down into several schools. I wanted the schools. I'm not going to go into every one of them, but I decided that rather than houses that were based on, I don't know. I mean, there's not really houses. They're like the houses in that one series, but they're not. There's 3 main ones, and they're more about the type of magic. So one's more about illusions, and one's more about potions. And so it's kind of marrying the magic to the personality of the people who are in each of the houses.
Yeah.
And I even had people who crossed those. They thought they identified so strongly with one of the houses that they, despite it not being their area of a concentration in school, you know, it's like you have a lot of people who, I knew a lot of engineers, or a lot of computer programmers who start out as English majors. So I thought of it that way. A lot of people would initially think they were part of a certain discipline and then end up somewhere else. So
yeah, and I want to get into spoilers either, but I thought what you've kind of hinted at, the way the magic works, I thought was actually quite lovely. The way you distinguish certain types of magic from other types of magic. there really was an inherent optimism to the tone of the novel, in in spite of the crises going on and everything happening. There is very much a a community of people working together to overcome a great obstacle. And there's those sorts of stories really speak to me when groups of people, they become a greater whole when they work together to resolve an issue. And I thought that your resolution to this story was so lovely, and I thought worked so well. And I really appreciated that you found a lot of positive storytelling out of something that came from something so negative. So kudos to you for that.
Have you I'm not going to get too deep into it. Have you heard of the heroine's journey as an opposition to the hero's journey?
I'm not familiar with that.
Well, I'll just say one of the things that's different between them. In the hero's journey, the hero has to become stronger when they get separated from their home and strength. Their home and their family and friends. They have to stand alone at the end of the book to overcome the obstacles. A heroine's journey generally ends with the heroine finding the strengths of the people in her life to come together to overcome obstacles. So you just sort of described at least how I see the heroine's journey, and it was something I was very much thinking about when I wrote Transwitch, because I'd been talking about it with some other my author friends. So
very cool, very cool. Unlike some of your other works, you put out the book and the audiobook for pretty close together.
Yeah, that was amazing how Danielle made that possible. I didn't think I expected it to be 6 months or so or more before. I wasn't even. Yeah, you can talk about that, Danielle, because I don't know. That's your bit of magic. So.
I was gonna say, yeah, it was like perfect timing when we were talking about it, and it was like I just happened to have this time in my schedule that was open that I could put Transwitch in, and so yeah, the magic of magic.
Yes. But I mean, not only that the timing worked out well, but I mean, you kind of skipped over other potential projects for audio to get straight to your new release, which made it really cool for me, because it meant I could actually check the book out before it had aged too much. I think, was it like a 6-week gap or 2-month gap, something like that?
It was only a couple of months, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe
so
3
I mean,
months.
It was still like the new hot Chrissy Garrison book when I got to hear it in audio. So
now I'm curious what the actual.
I know.
And I don't want to go off on a tangent, but yeah, it was not that long. It was certainly within a quarter.
Yeah. So before I ask Danielle about getting the manuscript, I guess we should go back a couple years. And so at that point, John and Christy and I were all with the same publisher, and that publisher had decided that they wanted to do some audiobooks. In my case, I thought finally, because I thought I had some things that were quite ready for audio, and we were not able to get that done right away. So when that opportunity came up and I raised my hand and I said, I would like to do Haunting Obsession, please. I think this will work very well. And so I put that out there, and I just had open auditions. And Danielle, so that's kind of sets up the question. You had been doing some stage work and some other things. Talk about how you got into doing audiobooks.
Yeah, as it said in my bio, I've been a professional actor for about 25 years, I believe. And I had a friend that I met doing a show, and she started doing audiobooks. And I asked her about it, and she kind of helped me get set up and get started in it. And it's something I'd always wanted to do, but I always thought was this impossible task. Like I was like, I don't even know how to get started in that. So then having a friend who did it really helped me get started. And I so I got everything set up, and I was in my little tiny closet upstairs in a basically a broom closet that I cleaned out, and we hung up some mattresses or some padding, and I just started auditioning for audiobooks, and lo and behold, my third audiobook was Haunting Obsession.
So,
And I remember doing the audition. So I saw the cover for it, which had this Marilyn Monroe type ghost on it, and I love Marilyn Monroe, and I thought, let me just do this audition and we'll see what happens. And I think it was like a month later, because I had taken on my second, I had only one audiobook out, and I took on the second audiobook, and then you contacted me about Haunting Obsession. And since I was so new to it, I was like, if I tell him that I have to wait a couple months, he's not going to want me. Now I know it's like, look, hey, I got this 6 months out or whatever. But yeah, so I was really happy that it all worked out so nicely, because I know you had to wait for me to finish the second one that I was doing, and then Haunting Obsession happened, and now we're here, which is awesome.
So I'm going to fill in some blanks for our listeners. What happened was I had a friend who had good intentions. They really wanted to be the narrator. And so when I put it up for open auditions, when yours came in, that was it. I was like, my friend is just going to have to completely knock it out of the park, or this Danielle Muething person is going to get it, because this is exactly, I knew I needed a female narrator because, you know, the three strongest characters are women in it. And I knew I needed someone who could do the Marilyn Monroe voice well. I mean, you checked all the boxes, and I could tell there was an enthusiasm in the read, but also, being a person of my word, I needed to give my friend time to submit their audition. And I said, look, you have 2 weeks. You got to get that recording together. Well, they made it easy for me because they never even bothered to get a recording turned in. At which point it was like, you missed the date, so now I can do what I want to do anyway. So it kind of took pressure off me, because otherwise I probably would have had to turn my friend down and go with clearly the better narrator. And, you know, getting into some other things regarding Haunting Obsession, there was a small cameo character in Haunting Obsession. Chrissy and I had worked out an arrangement years ago to kind of have each other's characters show up in small cameos in each other's books. And we worked that out amongst us. The fact that we were on the same with the same publisher made that even easier, but now we just don't even really worry about it. But the Transit King had a small part. It was written during the rough draft. It was just a fill-in spot. I was like, I'll figure out what it'll really be later, but I'm just gonna use the Transit King because that's what amuses me now. But then I kind of fell in love with the scene, the way it was written. And so Chrissy and I, yes.
Me too.
So Chrissy and I talked, we worked it out, and basically that's a thing we do now, where we kind of have this, we acknowledge that our characters live in the same universe and work with each other. But Danielle then had to do the voice of the Transit King, which I immediately sent to Chrissy as soon as I got that chapter and said, you got to hear how she does the Transit King.
Yeah.
I love the Transit King.
Yeah, he's clearly a favorite of mine because he keeps showing up in my different works. But yeah, that was probably what cinched that you had to do. For at least if you were willing, I wanted you to do Trans Witch, because I also threw the Transit King in there, and well, that and the puppet show, your puppet shows that you did for to promote Haunting Obsession made me laugh and really. I love the voice. That one of the things I look for in a voice actor is being able to do different voices for different characters clearly, because I don't write my books as a script. So there are times when I don't have Lily said, right before she says something, it might be afterward. I might not do it because it should be obvious or I think as the author that it should be obvious who's speaking next. And for that to come off, and I know this now because I've been reading my own stuff for my podcast, for that to come off as, making sense in an audio format, the voice talent has to be able to do those voices. And you did such distinct voices for the characters in Haunting Obsession that you were the first to come to mind when I was thinking about doing an audiobook for this particular work.
That definitely comes from the theater background. So, and I did children's theater for probably 15 years of that 25 years. So, yeah. And you better have some good voices if you're going to do children's theater. So, but yeah, I love doing characters, and that's why I love doing books like Transwitch or Haunting Obsession, or although I love that fantasy, because then you have that people want you to do the voices for it. Sometimes when you're reading a straight drama, it's just like little inflections on it, but with fantasy books, you just go all out, and I love that. That's my favorite thing.
I have goofy voices I definitely have goofy voices for ogres and trolls and goblins in my Tipsy Fairy Tales and Transwitch. So it makes me just cackle when I hear someone else read it out loud, because it's I know what it sounds like in my head, but
yeah, we can talk about my new favorite characters that came from Transwitch, which were Maldink and Kurto.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Nathan Maldink and Kurto.
Or is that a new sitcom or something?
If I had I don't write music, but if I did, I would totally write the theme song for the Maldink and Kurto show. They need a sitcom where they're just they're the odd couple that, the big ogres, trolls that I just want to watch them wash dishes together. I don't know.
With the New York accents. Yeah, I caught that.
Yeah. Right? Like I can just see them in their own sitcom. So maybe someday I'll find someone who can write the Maldink and Kurto theme song, and then we'll do the opening. We'll film the opening of the sitcom, and then it's going to be a huge hit. And
of course,
yeah,
I'm picturing it like you'll say ogres and have little colored dots between it, like the Friends logo. Ogres, and then they'll have this ridiculous New York apartment that they live in, and
right.
We'll have people stop by, and everyone stops for them to go. Well, actually,
right.
You did that for the that was Haunting Obsession, but you had the cheering and stuff like old sitcom. Oh, right.
It was the Haunting Obsession sitcom. I remember that. Yeah, I love that. That's good. I need to make some Maldink and Kurto paper dolls.
We need an artist. Actually, I wonder if we can talk a certain artist friend of ours into doing those.
I'll bet we might be able to.
I don't want to say her name because I don't. That'll be like twisting her arm. So I don't want to.
Right? No, I know you. I know who you mean, though. So I want to get serious for just a moment, because I haven't had a chance to put this out there in public. But Danielle, I wanted to, and most of this, but I wanted to publicly acknowledge the fact that when we started Haunting Obsession, my wife got very, very sick for a time where we weren't really sure what was happening. And the thing about being a writer, being an author, is you're expected to produce stuff, on kind of a schedule. And I just wanted to put out there that, not only was the audiobook something that I had wanted to do for a long time anyway, but you gave me a way to kind of passively put new work out there, even though you were the one doing most of the work on it. And that was something that helped support me in a way I don't even think was planned or intended, but it really meant a lot to me that you kind of took the baton and ran with it, and it just kind of became your project for a while. And all I had to do was just check in and, give you my occasional quality control and check off on it at a time that was very difficult for me. And that really meant a lot that you were able to do that. And
that means a lot. Thank you.
I think that's how we became friends as quickly as we did, because it was something I really needed at the time when I wasn't able to do the work. I wasn't able to keep it going on my own.
Yeah.
So. After that, we quickly did Haunting Blue and Virtual Blue, and you kind of became a part of the Team RJ family at that point, and you knew Chrissy and you knew John, at least virtually, by then. So, how did the conversation come about that Transwitch was going to Danielle, and how did that work out?
I was trying to remember when Chrissy and I first met. I know we were Facebook friends long before we did this project together. Because
of the puppet show.
Oh, was that?
That's why I friended you, because that was too funny. I figured you had this kind of to do that kind of thing. You had a sense of humor that I really liked, and RJ just kept talking about you, so it was I figured out how to get to know you. But I don't know about I don't remember. I mean, it's only been. I looked at the timeline. I put out Transwitch as a book, paperback and Kindle, at the very beginning of, the very end. It was the Kindle edition came out at the end of February, the very end of February, and I have Transwitch is now an audiobook on my site. It says is May 21st. So wow. It was only a 3-month span, not even a 3-month span. But I know that we just approached you over chat and said, I'm thinking about it. And you said you would be open, and I thought about it a while. And I came back and said, yeah, let's do this. I had enough going on in my life. I probably shouldn't have, but it wasn't, are you doing the work anyway? So all I had to do is make sure that I proofed everything, and although it was almost not necessary. So,
oh my gosh. Yeah, that was awesome. That was amazing how I was like, wow, I must have really been paying attention, because that doesn't always happen that well.
Yeah, I kept, so really short digression, but I used to do technical editing for books for when I worked for a publisher. That wasn't my main job. That was they paid me by the page outside of work, because I was the only one they knew who knew some of these topics. So they all had all kinds of technical editors, but I hated I hated it when the author was good at making no mistakes, because I didn't know how to show that I was actually doing work. If I just said, yeah, it looks good to me, it would seem suspicious. I felt that way again when proofing your recordings. I thought, she's going to think I'm not really listening to him, and I caught a couple of things that, and one of them you caught for me, that the audiobook has correct, but I have to fix in the paper book. But it's just a sense of who's referring to who in one particular, because I within the same paragraph I switched from first person to third person, because I'm thinking about it from it's Lily thinking, so she's thinking in third person. So you caught an agreement issue in the first chapter. So
it's interesting, because it's something that I think only the author probably reads the book more than I do. Because we prep it, I prep it, and then I do an initial read through, then I prep it, then I record it, then I proof it. So I go through and I make sure that I didn't make any huge mistakes. And then, you, the author, the rights holder, usually goes through it. Then I go through it again. And I catch a lot. I'll catch that stuff if I see it. And I try to say something, because I'm like, just so you know, I found this thing,
Yeah, I've worked with a couple of other voice talents, and they were pretty clean, but this was almost immaculate. So.
That's because of RJ. I get scared. I work with RJ, and he's like, "You messed it all up." No, that's not true. But no, I remember when you posted about wanting to write the book, and I thought, oh, what a great idea, and I couldn't wait to read it. And then, really, it was pretty quick after it came out that you contacted me about.
I guess it was a strike while the iron is hot thing. I was really excited about that book, because it came to it was one of those projects that took me by the shoulders and shook me. You must write this right now. And then when I put it out, I was so proud of it, and it was selling pretty well, very well compared to compared to my other releases. Often took a while to catch on. And I'm not saying I'm quitting my day job or anything, but it's been my most popular work to date. So I thought, well, if I can get audiobooks out sooner, the better. Better than having some of my sequels done first. To round out a trilogy or something like that. But and I just thought this would, since it stood alone, really deserved a good treatment and get it out there with as soon as we could. So.
Yeah, I was delighted when I got the news. I don't remember which one of you told me, but I was like, "Oh, this is going to be great." So then I realized I had to kind of wait to read the book because I was going to contact Christy about getting a paperback. But I'm like, if it's not too long, I'm going to wait and listen to the audiobook, which is a first for me. Most of the audiobooks I listen to are usually like older books that I've read before, and I just kind of want to hear the audio version of it. But so yeah, it was a neat experience to hear this collaboration of two people I respect so much. And we've talked about quite a few things and a lot of stuff about audiobooks and things.
The Two Towers Talk Show is sponsored in part by OG Nerds, a new social media community dedicated to nerds of a certain age, 40 and over, although all are welcome. Members are encouraged to share articles and links on their favorite nerdy topics such as animation, anime, art, books, writing, comics, manga, movies, music, sports, tech, science, TV, video games, RPGs, and more. Be sure to visit them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
The Two Towers Talk Show is sponsored in part by Showtime Cinema in Mooresville, Indiana. Their friendly staff is always willing to go the extra mile to make your movie-going experience an enjoyable and memorable one. Enjoy the comfort of their new cushioned seating in their spacious auditoriums, and while you're there, be sure to stop by the concession stand and purchase some popcorn where real butter topping is an option. They're located at 300 South Bridge Street in Mooresville, Indiana. We hope to see you at the movies.